Thursday, so you know that means there's a new episode of BAM Weekly coming at you. The show where we talk some sports, the show where we talk some entertainment, and then in the end, we typically talk about sports entertainment. We're your hosts, I'm Boris, and as always, I am joined by Matt.
Bonjour! How's everybody doing out there? We hope you're doing well. Boris, how's it going, big homie? It's not going to be as eventful an episode as last week, but we hope it's as entertaining. We got a guest for you. We're talking some Impact Wrestling, talking some NBA. But yeah, how you hanging in there, big man?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing very good, actually. It's been a busy week. Happy and cannot wait to call this week over and done with so that we can get some R&R in. Because, yeah, it's been a super busy week, both on the real job side, the SNME side. But, you know, it's just another day, really. But you know, it's going. Weather has been pretty nice. Outside of that, man, everything is status quo. Everything is the same for the most part. How about you, man?
Yeah, same old, just slugging away, lots to do. Got an Operation Sports video coming out very soon, next couple days, about WWE 2K22. That game's looking pretty good, man. That's got me a little bit excited, got my nerd bone a-tingling. But yeah, man, just hanging in there. Another manic Thursday, as it were, buddy.
Yeah, the Thursday seems to be just the craziest day of the week for me. But you know, so it's always good being able to kind of like take a step back, chat some sports and chat some wrestling, because it's two things that I honestly love chatting about. But you know, it's kind of like a mixed bag of who you can always talk to about that stuff. But yeah, as we talked about at the very top of the show, you know, on the wrestling side, we have some news to get your way. We're going to be talking some New Japan slightly, while previewing the New Japan Cup, the 48-man New Japan Cup. We're going to quickly be talking about the Crockett Cup, and then Bob Kapur from SlamWrestling.net is going to come on the show. We're going to chat some Sacrifice, some No Surrender, and then we're going to be, you know, we have an exclusive for our listeners.
Nice, an exclusive, and talking some Sacrifice, 66.66% chance that we knock it out of the park, Boris.
Yeah, man. So, what do you got for me in terms of sports?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to talk about Zion Williamson. So it's very interesting. He hasn't played all season. And like a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks before the season, it was said that he'll be fine. He'll be ready in time for opening day. And that didn't happen. And then Christmas rolled around. And now St. Patrick's Day is coming up and there's no Zion. The Pelicans have put out their pressers for next year, Boris, saying, we're excited about what we're building in New Orleans. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but they mentioned CJ, they mentioned Jackson Hayes, they mentioned all these guys, but no mention of Zion Williamson. So my question to you, stranger things have happened than this, Boris. Has Zion played his last game in New Orleans? Is he going?
I think so. I think they're just going to call it. I think they're just going to call it a loss and let him pack up. It's not like he added any value to them when he did play as little as he played, right? So if Zion has an issue with management, which is one of the reports coming out, you know, then so be it, right? You know, if Zion ends up being a huge superstar, then well, someone's going to lose their job. But if Zion ends up being a bust, which is kind of where he's leaning to, then whatever. It is what it is.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if I agree that he's leaning towards being a bust, although the injuries are scary. He has played the same number of games in his first 2 seasons that Greg Oden did. Now, I don't know if this is like a Ben Simmons situation where he's sitting out for mental reasons or he's just not training to the proper level. We don't really know exactly what's going on with Zion. I'm not sure if I would trade him unless he's asked for a trade. But, man, he's not bad. Last season, or in his 85 career NBA games, he's averaging 25 points and 7 rebounds, right? So he's a freak athlete. What is he, 21 years old? I don't think you give up on this player yet, unless he has asked New Orleans to trade.
But even then, if he's not playing for you, what's the point of keeping him around?
Well, that's a really good point, buddy. I have no retort to that, and that gets to my point. Like, if he's not going to play for you, right, then get rid of him. But I think it's worth trying to save the relationship in this case. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've cut people loose for less, so. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Fair enough, man. But Yeah, that's the big news in the NBA right now. And also, James Harden due to come back Wednesday, I believe it's announced that he will be making his return. I want to say against the Minnesota Timberwolves, so that's exciting. The Eastern Conference heating up for the deadline here, and man, the Raptors are still hanging in there, still looking good. Scotty Barnes.
Yeah, the Raptors really are looking pretty good right now. You know, they're slowly climbing up the rankings. The East is like there's only a few points that separate so many teams, and it just really every game matters so much. And with fans coming back to Toronto to the Scotiabank Arena, I think that's really going to help the team because they were making all these huge wins with zero fans.
Exactly. And yeah, the Raptors feed off that home crowd. That's really huge for that team specifically. They have one of the best home courts in the NBA, man. So for sure, that's going to help a lot. Did you watch the dunk contest?
No. Like I said last week, it's just
don't even YouTube it, man. It might have been the worst one I've ever seen. The only one I can remember off the top of my head that would like contend for worst, all that like it could also be on the bottom of the mountain is that like weird team one with John Wall. I think he unofficially won. It was like 2010 maybe. That one was really bad and weird. But yeah, this dunk contest took forever. Everyone was taking 12 attempts. All the dunks were kind of bad. Nothing really great. Yeah, it was a tough one.
Yeah. I watched a bit of the All-Star game, and I always forget how they don't tabulate the full score. They take it quarter by quarter, just so that the score doesn't look like 290 to 289, right? Like.
Exactly. It's really weird, the new scoring system, but I do kind of like it. The NBA All-Star Game's okay, although I didn't watch a second of it this year, not 1 second.
It is not okay whatsoever. It's horrible. all the All-Star Games are just pathetic, except for the MLB one.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're not going to see an MLB All-Star Game this year because we're going to see 80 games in the season. It's going to be shortened. I'm really scared.
Yeah, it's what they were supposed to, pitchers and catchers were supposed to report next week. That's obviously not happening. Apparently the owner sent something to the Players Association, but from all accounts it is just a joke of an offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're not even, like we've said this before on the podcast, but they're not even discussing the top like 4 or 5 biggest sticking points, and they're miles apart on a lot of things. It's looking like it's going to eat into the season because they still, like you said, they still need some kind of spring training. They need some kind of training camp before they actually start to play baseball. So, oh man, it's going to be rough.
Can you imagine? And I was actually talking to Jason Agnew about this last week. And can you imagine if, for whatever reason, some insiders are saying, okay, they're going to have a shortened spring training, not many games. It's going to be like a camp. And then they're going to start the season. Can you imagine if this happens? And Jason said it best. I can't wait for all the pitcher injuries to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Going to be a lot of 10-day DL. Going to be a lot of 10-day DL. It will be tough to play fantasy baseball for the first month or two of the whatever this season is.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's going to be ridiculously hard. But whatever, MLB, get your shit together.
Yeah, get your shit together. Get it all. Pick it up, get it in a pot, and get it together. Anyway, man. So yeah, next week I think we're gonna do a deep dive like we did at the start of December. Go through every team, just go through the standings, the NHL and the NBA update as we turn the corner into the home stretch. But other than that, I don't know. It's kind of just a depressing time for sports. Like obviously what's going on in Europe is affecting FIFA all over the place, and just the dog days, and it's sad times all around the world.
Yeah, man, that's the thing. Like, I'm trying so hard today, especially on this show, to stay positive, but it's so hard at the same time, just because, the world is literally just on fire around us, right? It's like, all right, we're getting out of this pandemic, and shit happens.
Yeah, shit indeed happens, buddy. Shit's going down. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to say on our sports and wrestling podcast, but earnestly, with all my heart, my true thoughts and prayers are with people of Ukraine right now. It's crazy what's going on in there. And it's just, we're blessed. And just it's a reminder that there is real tyranny in the world. You know what I mean? So careful what words you throw around, because Canada is not tyrannical by any stretch, Boris.
Yeah. I'm not even going to say anything on that one. So
let's just leave it there and talk about some professional wrestling, buddy.
Exactly, some professional wrestling. So, big news of the day: Cesaro is gone from WWE. No, he wasn't released, believe it or not. He just let his contract run out. So this does mean that he is a free agent. He can show up wherever he wants. And I love how people are just like assuming he's going to go to AEW. I love how people are assuming he's going to go anywhere. You know, he still can sign a new contract, right?
Absolutely. And maybe this will be the thing that jumpstarts the weekly Cesaro pusher. Every 6 months, Cesaro gets a push, and maybe he's due for another one if he resigns a fat contract. But I don't know, man. It obviously the easiest thing is to say, oh, just go to AEW. But could you not see a Claudio Castagnoli, Bryan Danielson, John Moxley stable having a little fun here in AEW for the next 6 months to a year?
Not at all. You know what? You know what we're gonna see? We're gonna see Claudio versus Swerve Scott on Elevation. That's what we're gonna be seeing.
No, I don't think that's fair, man. I think it's a funny line, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, because Jay Lethal is doing wonderful stuff on Dynamite and Rampage.
The cream rises to the top. Adam Cole is doing wonderful stuff. Jay Lethal is like 39, and I think he's right where he belongs, to be honest.
And Cesaro's 41.
But Cesaro's significantly better.
I don't know.
We're not
to each their own.
Do that.
But here's the thing. Again, we don't know where he's going to end up. 11 years with WWE. His biggest match, arguably, WrestleMania 37 against Seth Rollins. Like, that was probably, the biggest 6-month push that he had over the past 11 years. He's had a lot of, tag team title runs. His run with Sheamus was great. His run with Tyson Kidd was looking to be a good one, but probably his match with Seth Rollins last year was his biggest one. But yeah, according to PW Insider, Cesaro and WWE just failed to reach an agreement. So that's all she wrote, at least for now. Because in wrestling, Matt, you never say never.
Yes, never say never. And I could definitely see him back in WWE. I don't think it would be a bad decision by any means. But, man, my fantasy scenario is like a 3-man stable, maybe even throw Daniel Garcia in too. But Claudio, Danielson, Moxley on a heater together. Maybe throw Regal in there too. By God, Chris Hero, Boris, I'm rock hard.
Give me whatever drugs you have right now, just because that's like... Yeah.
It is. It's a Cialis. You don't want it. All right. Moving on.
So let's move on. Let's talk about some NWA Crockett Cup. Got to give the Crockett Cup some love. It's the field is looking pretty good. So let's run down through the teams real quickly that are officially in the Crockett Cup. So there are 16 teams vying for the cup. So these are the teams that have so far been announced. There are a couple wrestle-ins. There are a couple surprises, but these are the teams that have already been announced. So you have La Rebellion, Mecha Wolf, and Bestia 6'6". You have the Briscoe Brothers. You have the OGK. You have British Invasion. So that's Doug Williams and a mystery partner. You have Strictly Business, Chris Adonis and Tom Latimer. The Pope and Strong Mims. Aaron Stevens and Kratos. The End, which consists of Pero and Odinson. Hawks, Airy, Luke and PJ Hawks. The Dirty Sex Boys, JTG and Dirty Dango. I love that name. I don't know why.
That's a name. That's actually what we were going to call BAM. Those were the final two. We settled on BAM. I regret it.
You have the Cardonas, Mike Knox and VSK. You have Golden Rush, Jordan Clearwater and Marsh Rocket. The Ill Begotten, the Fixers, Jay Bradley and Wrecking Ball. And that is everyone that's been announced.
I like Marche Roquette. He's been a favorite on the BAM podcast before. I like that it's seeded. It's like La Rebellion, Boris. You're way better at saying that than I am. The number 1 seed, and they will play the number 16 seed, a to-be-announced jobber team. You know what I mean? And they're really treating it like it's an actual sports tournament. Seeded 1 through 16. I love that. So, there are things to like about this. I've got my eye on it. I will definitely watch the Crockett Cup.
Do you think there's any chance we're going to see FTR here?
Oof. Could you imagine as the 16 seed or the 15 seed? No, I don't think so. I could see them jumping the winner, maybe.
Yeah, so the Briscoe brothers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too.
Um,
Briscoe's over La Rebellion, Boris. 2 seed over a 1 seed in the final. That's what I'm thinking.
yeah, because it's the La Rebellion, you have the Briscoe brothers and the OGK. I think those are probably they're the top three seeded teams, but also in my opinion the most likely and with the most reason to win in the bigger wrestling world right now.
Yeah, 100%. I can see Luke and PJ Hawks going on a little run, but maybe if there's going to be a team that beats the tag team champions Rebellion early, it would be Luke and PJ. But yeah, no, at the end of the day, I think that's your final. The
Yep.
1v2.
Exactly. So we'll cover bits and pieces of the Crockett Cup. Most likely, we'll for sure talk about the finals. But if you've listened to us before, you know how we feel about NWA. So we might have to bring in other people to chat about it because really, it's a tough one to watch sometimes.
Some people are into it, and we respect their opinions. We love to hear their voice here on BAM. But that's the thing. Boris and I are pretty aligned to the fact that we kind of don't love it. It's kind of not our cup of tea, shall we say.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that we're like fully aligned on.
Yeah, we both kind of hate NWA and think it sucks.
Let's talk about something that we don't hate, but I actually hate this format this year. A 48-man New Japan Cup.
Yeah, it's way too much. But get used to it, Boris. The World Cup, FIFA World Cup, this is coming. It's all expansion all the time. 48-man New Japan Cup bracket. And it's a crazy one. It's an interesting way to do the matchups in that there's basically like there's a third party, there's like a first round, right? Like a play-in round, a wrestle-in round, as you just put it. And then the winner of those matches will play a much weaker opponent than they fought in the first match. You know what I mean? For example, Okada versus El Desperado, awesome match. Winner faces Master Wato. Word. Nagata versus Goto. There's a hard-hitting battle. Winner faces Dick Togo. Interesting. You know what I mean? It's just very interesting booking here in this tournament.
Yeah, it's very weird. The one match that Boris of 2000, 2005 is really looking forward to is Taka Michinoku versus Sema.
Oh my God, yeah, Shima, right? Versus Taka, that match is going to be awesome. It's like you said, it's the 2000 dream match, the 2002 dream match. I'm circling Ishii versus Shingo, round 1. You could have put that in round 2, round 3. You could have put that in the final. Ishii versus Shingo is going to be a war.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And just looking at the brackets, like we're not going to go through this. It's almost impossible to go through the brackets and actually, we'll be covering it. We'll be watching it. Matt, we have some catching up to do with New Japan, but I think the New Japan Cup and the tournament is going to for sure be something that we kind of follow closely.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, tonight, my plan was to watch that Okada versus Naito match and rate it, put it on the list. And Stardom World takes a minute to update, right? Like that Stardom show that just happened is not yet on Stardom World, correct?
Correct.
Yes. So, yeah, once that updates on Stardom World, I will also check out the AZN versus Dark Starlight Kid match that is getting a ton of buzz right now.
Yeah, I saw Uncle Dave kind of really praising that match, or him praising the praise.
Yeah, like him agreeing with the praise and saying, like, you could argue it was match of the year if that's the thing you're into. And Kenny Omega agreeing, basically saying it's apples to oranges to compare it to a New Japan match because they're working as such a different style, working a mile a minute. It's literally called the high-speed title, Boris.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we have some catching up to do with New Japan, Stardom, and even some Noah. So I think we should probably dedicate a whole episode when we have a little lighter schedule to just Japanese wrestling.
Let's do that. Next episode is going to be the catch-up episode. We're going to catch up on the NBA, the NHL, and Puro Reisu. But before we get off this topic, who you got to win this thing? Do you think it's going to be Okada? Do you think it's going to be Shingo?
I'm thinking it's that's a Shingo, huh? Probably, honestly, I'm gonna go with Zack Sabre Jr.
Sabre, it's very possible. I wonder who is going to beat Ospreay because I don't think it's going to be Ospreay. but I wonder who's going to be the one to beat him. You know who I think might win this tournament? Staring at the top of the bracket, right-hand side, Kota Ibushi.
Yeah.
He's a good look at any time to pop off, get a little main event run, and maybe drop a match to Okada. He was the god of New Japan, right? Like, not a couple months ago, but for injuries and also a 2-year global pandemic, which crippled the entire company.
Yep. I'm looking at the brackets, like the quarterfinals, we could possibly get and will likely get Zack Sabre Jr. versus Kota Ibushi.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's going to be always amazing, and it's going to be another great one. So yeah, we could get ZSJ versus Will in the semifinals, but again, I think Ibushi's going to win. Ibushi's going to be the one who beats Will in the semis.
And you know who I think is going to have a fantastic, just beautiful run? I've been talking about this guy for a couple years. He was supposed to make an impact in the heavyweight division, but he always injures himself, and that's Hiromu Takahashi.
I hope so, yeah. Hiromu versus Minoru Suzuki looks like a round 2 match. That'll be dope if it happens. Yeah, man, I really hope so. I'm actually kind of excited for this. Who you got, though? I'm taking Ibushi. Who you got?
I'm taking Zack.
Yeah, you're right. You did say that. Zack Sabre Jr. locking it in, setting it in stone, Boris. All right.
Yep, and if any of us are right on a 48-man tournament, then good on you.
You will be hearing about it again, I promise you.
Speaking of us being right, before we move on to Impact, well, I guess we are now on Impact. Eddie Edwards turning on Team Impact.
Yeah, to quote the great Tony Kornheiser, Boris, I believe I had that. So, hats off to us here at the BAM podcast. But, that one was a little obvious. He's clearly got that Ring of Honor blood, former Ring of Honor champion. We predicted it for a reason, buddy.
Oh, exactly. And it makes sense. But, as you're going to hear Bob Kapur essentially say, with Honor No More winning, what's next? Right? You have this invasion angle. They come in, destroy everyone. They win. Now they're officially employees. Now what?
I feel you. And honestly, just the fact that you asked that question is kind of proof of what Impact has been doing for the last 20 years, right? Because the temptation is to say, well, just wait and see. Like, as dumb as that is, just like you're watching the show, like, I'm sure they know what's coming next, but I'm not sure they know what's coming next because they're Impact Wrestling, Boris. And they've been a tire fire for 20 years. Now, it's way better in the last 6 months to a year, way, way better, but it's still Impact. It's still built on, on some really, really terrible, evil ground.
Yeah, so it's funny that you say that because I guess it's no secret that we're planning a retro show for the Patreons. The first 7 episodes are going to be, the first 7 episodes of TNA. When you sent me the lineup, I'm just like, holy crap, this is bad.
Yeah, it's like, it's gonna be a summer of TNA. We're gonna be watching as the 20-year anniversaries of the shows occur. Boris and I are gonna be watching them, and then we're gonna have a podcast for you Monday mornings. And the first, it's gonna be a retro wrestling podcast. But yeah, the first couple episodes are going to be NWA TNA's first couple pay-per-views. And the reason why we say 7 is because something happens on the 7th episode and I quit. I'm done. I know I quit the first time I tried to do TNA, and I know I'm going to quit again.
Yeah. Well, here we go. We're going to do this. But yeah, so we haven't really talked about this retro show. We had a beautiful name for it. I had a beautiful logo. We're kind of reworking this because of copyright reasons. But, it's going to essentially be Matt and Friends.
Yeah, it's going to kind of be my thing. I'm very excited for it. But Boris will be heavily involved too. He's the Michael Wilbon to my Tony Kornheiser. We'll have him on the show a lot. But man, no, it's just going to be retro wrestling. We're going to do seasons too. I'm not going to be every single week. I will take like months off here and there, but basically 20 to 25 episode blocks just about retro wrestling. My goal is to make it like the Rewatchables, if you're familiar with that podcast. It just like, somewhat like evergreen topics that you like one single topic. And we can have some fun with it, We'll figure it out. It'll evolve a little bit, but I'm very excited to get it going, get it off the ground.
And it will be the show that we have you, the patrons, part of as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll have you guys on the show all the time. We'll have like feedback once we can try to set up like some kind of Zoom situation down the road. We're going to figure it out. But yeah, not just like feedback all the time, but like if you want to see specific matches reviewed, we might even do like a mailbag concept, a match bag where you just request a bunch of matches and we'll just review them all. We're going to figure it out, but lots of patron involvement for sure.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so before we start talking about No Surrender, preview Sacrifice, and get to some Impact news, there is some news for this weekend's edition of Sunday Night's Main Event, the flagship show with Mike, and with Mike McGuire, that is. And that is, we have an interview this week. And Matt, this is what I meant when I said it's the interview that we probably should have, the interview that we were trying to get when NXT talks started. And that's with 2.0.
Yeah, a little jealous. No, actually, I didn't even remember that we were doing that day. So that's hilarious, man. No, I'm pumped. I'm pumped to hear from them. The two hilarious guys, good Canadian boys, like obviously influenced by, a lot of comedic things as well as professional wrestling. So I'm excited to hear from them, man. And it's a good get by Mike.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I can't wait to hear it. So that's this Sunday. If you're a patron, you're going to be getting the full interview. If you're not a patron, you're going to have to wait a little longer to listen on the radio, listen on podcast, and you're not going to get the full end-to-end interview. So this is a great chance for you to sign up, patreon.com/SNME Radio. You get about 30 shows a month, all for just over $5.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you get the full thing on Patreon and on terrestrial radio and on podcast form. You get a little taste, just a taste, Boris.
Well played, my friend. Well played. All right, so without further ado, let us chat some No Surrender, some Sacrifice, and some Impact news with SlamWrestling.net's Bob Kapur. And as promised, I said that we would have someone to chat some Impact with. I've called this man typically the only Impact fan around. I think that's a lie nowadays. Bob Kapur from SlamWrestling.net. Bob, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Excellent. I just wanted to chat some Impact. Before we get to the shows, I really want to talk about the state of Impact. Impact over the past, 6 weeks, 7 weeks have really been making, dare I say, an impact. They've really kind of held their own. They've been getting a lot of new viewers. They've kind of been getting a lot of attention, positive attention, and they've been able to finally kind of, stick with that positive attention, keep things and interesting on their actual show. They've had some good pay-per-views. What a time for Impact.
I don't think it is much different from before, right? Like I always say, Impact is always kind of under the radar. But they're generally been putting on good shows. They've, in terms of the Forbidden Door, they've kicked it open probably more than any other company, and they've made those prominent storylines. It's just, whether it's lack of awareness, lack of the cool factor, they're not really making a lot of waves, good or bad. But I think the product has been good, just that no one, they're the best kept secret in wrestling.
I agreed with you. They have probably the worst TV deal humanly possible. But, wrestling fans are fickle, right? Like, no matter what WWE does, people are always going to find a way to make fun of them, right? Impact, same thing. I feel like they just have such a huge hill and mountain to climb that no matter how good or bad they are, they're just going to get a bad rep no matter what.
Yeah, and, we talked about this. It doesn't help that most of their pay-per-view events or their special events are on nights or on the same weekend as other major companies' product. So last week it was the same day as the Elimination Chamber, right? And this next pay-per-view is the same weekend as the AEW pay-per-view. So it's just, it's bad timing, bad planning maybe, but sometimes it just gets forgotten about.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the unfortunate, because they are putting on some great TV. They did have a very fun pay-per-view last week. And, a lot of people were saying that it was better than Elimination Chamber itself. So, it's the unfortunate part. So, to all our listeners, just, Matt and I have been praising Impact lately. Go out and watch it. If you're doing nothing next Saturday, go out on and get some Impact Plus and watch some Sacrifice, because the card is actually shaping up to be pretty good, and the fallout of No Surrender, we'll see exactly what's going on. But Bob, let's talk some No Surrender. We'll go through the matches, kind of get what you think, and then we'll kind of wrap things up and kind of try to preview Sacrifice as best as we can, considering we're hours away from a new show and there's only one show left. So let's talk No Surrender. All right, so the first match of the night was Jake Something versus Ace Austin, Chris Bay, and Mike Bailey in a four-way to become the number one contender to the X Division Championship. There's something to be said about this division, and I just love the fact that 9 out of 10 times the X Division starts the shows, because it's always a fun way to start, and this match was just that.
Yeah, it's very much like the old WCW Nitro, where they would always start off with like their cruiserweight division. Same type of thing here, and there's some really good talent. Speedball Mike Bailey, if you've never seen him, he's a good Canadian guy, fantastic performer. Ace Austin is one of those, again, another real well-kept secret that I think most people might not have heard of him, but he could do some magical things in the ring. And Chris Bay is just phenomenal. He's like the new, one of the new like Rey Mysterio types in terms of what he can do. Jake Something, he's the one that doesn't really fit in terms of the traditional X Division size and stature and type of wrestler, but he's got good strength that counterbalances well to the others, and I thought it was a pretty good match.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun, and it's kind of funny that you say the one person who actually doesn't fit the mold is the person who actually won this match, and that's Jake Something. So he is now the number one contender to the X Division Championship, which it'll be a fun match, I think, but like you said, he just doesn't fit this mold.
Yeah, so I think the good clash of styles that is going to come with him and Trey Miguel, who's the X Division champion, should be a fun match, and really gives Jake an opportunity to shine as a single star. They've kind of, since he split with Cody Deaner and took on the Jake Something moniker, he's been kind of start and stop in terms of push, so this might be the start of something big. And, in terms of larger guys, Josh Alexander won the X Division Championship and took that to new heights. So it's possible Jake Something could do the same if they decide to give it to him.
Yeah, that's exactly it. All right, the second match of the night was Jonah versus Black Taurus. This match was just your big guy versus big guy. Impact seems to really be pushing Jonah. Jonah gets the win. Bob, what did you think of this match?
I thought it was really well done. I love seeing Jonah in the ring, and even when he first came on and they first teased the clash with Black Taurus, I thought this is just gonna be a fun one, and it was. It was just a big, hard-hitting match, and they did it the right way. Jonah went over as he should. He's the single star, and he's the star on the rise.
Yep, exactly. And it's kind of funny, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's amazing how Impact is able to book these big guys that WWE just failed on. For a company that prides itself on booking these big guys, Impact just does it better.
Well, I think Jonah is different because he's a big guy, but he's not really tall in stature. He's got that size and he's stockiness, so he's almost as tall as he is wide, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they actually saw a star look in him, right? Because he doesn't have the height. I think that's the one detriment that he had in WWE's eyes, I'm guessing, because I don't think there's any flaws in his game in terms of working that way.
Yeah, exactly. There was obviously something that they didn't see in him, and that's why he's an Impact right now. All right, third match of the night was actually a match that I had zero interest to watch. Never thought I wanted to watch these two wrestle, but it was still fun, and somehow Impact, like you said earlier, just using the Forbidden Door at its best, and that's when Jay White faced Eric Young.
It's funny because, I had complaints about the way that they were using the New Japan guys in Impact, because I think they were bringing in, the Bullet Club without really providing them much of a link to the rest of the product. And by incorporating Violent by Design, the faction that Eric Young leads, into that feud with, or the situation with the Bullet Club and the Good Brothers, and bringing them all in, it really organically brought this match into existence and made some sense in why they're bringing in these New Japan guys. And I thought the match really, might have over-delivered. This is might have been one of my favorite matches, or top 3 on the show. Eric Young he was criminally underutilized in WWE. Impact is the right place for him. And Jay Whiteboy, who I've never really been impressed with from what I've seen elsewhere, really delivered on this one. I in my notes for Slam, I said I couldn't even do it justice because I just started enjoying the match too much to take notes.
Yeah, that tends to happen sometimes, and that's how you know that it's a really good match, when you just completely forget to actually take notes. It's happened to me, and I'm like, oh, I got to rewatch this or something, right? And then people wonder why sometimes a report might be a little late. It's just because rewatching stuff, and this match was a lot of fun for me. So yeah, so Jay White ends up winning this match. All right, the next match saw.
I'll say this: you're a lot more committed, because Impact Plus service, you can't really rewatch it right away. They don't have a rewind function or anything, so it's, if I miss it, everyone misses it in terms of report readers.
True, actually. All right, the next match saw Deonna Purrazzo, 2-belt Deonna, put up the ROH Women's Championship against someone who was in ROH for quite a bit, and that's Miranda Alize.
Yeah, this is, the storyline with Deonna. She's got the ROH Championship and the AAA Reina de Reinas Championship, and she's doing these open challenges. It's not been my favorite storyline for Deonna, to be honest, because I think that they're bringing in people who, there's, without the history, and I get it's a title shot, but I like to see the history, and I like to see, I'm a big fan of Deonna. I'm a big fan of her style. And when she has these new opponents, they don't necessarily have the same chemistry as she does with people she's wrestled in the past or on the show before. So this wasn't my favorite Deonna match. I think it also, because like I said, it didn't follow the traditional formula of Deonna working the arm, doing it very scientifically, and ultimately getting the win. They got there at the end, but I think it took a while, and I found that they didn't jive in the ring as much as I'd hoped.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Even the match with Roxy, as fun as that match was, there was that chemistry that was kind of missing between the two, and that was clearly the thing here in this match. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with Deonna Purrazzo holding the ROH women's belt. I'm assuming she's going to put it up for grabs in April, at the ROH card, but we'll see what goes on. All right. Before we talk about the next match, I need to ask you this question. How do you feel about intergender wrestling?
I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I know some people have very strong opinions about it, how they don't like it. I'm fine with it. If it's visually believable, and Jordynne Grace is a woman who can make it visually believable. She's bigger than a lot of the guys. She looks stronger than a lot of the guys, and tougher than a lot of the guys. So, especially at the smaller weight divisions. So I think that it can work. To me, if it's the right story, if the psychology is played up well, I don't have a problem with it, and I don't really worry about the perception of the violence against women. If it's booked and they're willing to do it, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so the match was Matt Cardona versus Jordynne Grace, for the Digital Media Championship. What did you think, Bob?
It's the first Matt Cardona match I've actually enjoyed. As anyone who reads my reports knows, I'm not the biggest Matt Cardona fan. I think he was still doing the Zack Ryder character for too long, and it wasn't working. In Impact, everywhere else he was working, I loved it. Like, I loved the stuff in GCW. So he started bringing that attitude here and bringing that, that sort of persona and personality into Impact. So I very much enjoy that. The match I thought was good. I wasn't fine with the ending. I thought the ending was a bit contrived, where Cardona had the chair, was going to hit her with it, and then I guess by instinct, Jordan gave him a low kick and got disqualified. So I thought the ending was a bit of a cop-out, but I do like that Cardona retained. I find that this new persona and, the Digital Media Championship and holding it, they go hand in glove.
Yep. Agreed. And it's just like the perfect belt for the guy, and it just makes sense. So going back to something that you said earlier, I think Jordan Grace has that China factor where intergender wrestling kind of does work for her. I'm not the biggest intergender wrestling fan for many reasons, but I think with someone like Jordan Grace, if the match is booked and laid out properly, it could be a fun match, and that's kind of what we saw with this match here, up until the end, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, sure. I mean, if you put her again in the ring with someone like W. Morrissey or Jonah, I don't think I would enjoy it as much, because it's hard to make the psychology work to where it's believable that she has a big chance. I think Cardona is the right type of opponent for her where it makes sense, because, other than a little bit of height difference, she looks bigger and tougher than he does.
Yeah, that's funny enough. You're right. All right, so then the next match probably had some of the biggest implications throughout wrestling. That's the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, versus Guerrillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga and Tongaloa for the Impact Tag titles. This match had a huge swerve that saw Jay White actually turn on Guerrillas of Destiny to help Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson win.
Yeah, I thought this match was pretty good. Where I took some issue with was in the refereeing, just because, I'm a stickler for referees should enforce the rules, and this match they kind of let a lot of things go without counting, without any enforcement of the rules, so that took away some of my enjoyment. I thought the ending was interesting and the swerve. This is the one thing I found with the Bullet Club and what I was talking about before, and not necessarily integrating it well, is they do these things, and you mentioned could have huge implications in the wrestling world. For someone who's not following New Japan stuff and the Bullet Club saga, it's just another swerve. And I found that this one did to me, because I don't really necessarily care about what's going on in that faction. It was a swerve, but it didn't mean a whole lot to me, although, like I said, it was interesting and paid off in the finish.
Yeah, exactly. And I can see that's kind of the turnoff, right? And this is the issue sometimes with the Forbidden Door. If you have a group, a faction, or a storyline from somewhere else coming here in Impact, and people don't know who the players are, and they don't do a good job of explaining what's going on, then, how are they going to capture that, quote unquote casual fan that might be watching the show for the first time?
Yeah, it's interesting because with Impact, the audience is so relatively small. I don't know if it's made up of hardcores who, like the AEW fans seem to follow every company, including New Japan, and particularly I'd say New Japan, because that's where a lot of their, the big stars in AEW were from, is New Japan, ROH, which did a lot of the Bullet Club stuff. I don't know how much the New Japan stuff and Bullet Club stuff resonates with Impact fans. Is the audience too small? Are they hardcores, or are they very casual? From what I've seen at some of those crowds, they're very much Impact fans. They are WWE fans. It's been a while since I've been alive, obviously because of the pandemic. I've been at a live Impact show, so I can't really gauge if the fans know or care what's going on with the Bullet Club stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you said it best. I think Impact fans are Impact fans. They tend to love Impact and have followed Impact for a long time. Like, I remember going to some shows way back when and, talking to some people, and they just know the ins and the outs of Impact, right? Like, they knew the product so well that it's just like, wow, so that might still be the case, but after the pandemic and now with live crowds, who knows what that crowd consists of, really.
And I think they also, Impact has a high proportion of fans from other countries, right? They're not North American. They're in Asia. They're in the UK in particular. And I'm not sure how much of that stuff translates in terms of, are they following all the other products or all the other companies?
Yep. All right.
So I don't think it was a bad match. I thought, like I said, I thought the match was pretty good, other than the refereeing.
Yeah, the next match was Mickie James versus Tasha Steelz for the Knockouts Championship.
this was fine. Again, the ending I find, I wrote in my report is it was a bit busy. There was just a lot of things. They had Savannah Evans come in. They had Chelsea Green come in. I thought it was a bit of a cluster near the end. Mickie James retained, and I think they're eventually building to Mickie James versus Chelsea Green, possibly with Chelsea Green turning and snapping. So we'll see how that story plays out. I'm not wild about Mickie James as champion. I think it was a nice nostalgia pop when she won it, but I think she's overstayed her title reign welcome as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and I think you're right about Chelsea Green. They seem to, like, when they did that state of the women's of the knockouts division, Chelsea Green was kind of one of the featured people there. I think the overly nice character of Chelsea Green, I think we're kind of leaning towards, the old character of Chelsea Green, and I'm kind of hoping that she is the one who dethrones Mickie James.
Yeah, it'd actually be nice to see her and Cardona both in that sort of character, right? The good people turn bad, and as a real life couple, it'd be cool to see them play that on Impact screens as well.
Yep. All right, so then the next match was for the Impact World Championship. We saw Moose versus W. Morrissey. Before we talk about this match in particular, I want to talk about W. Morrissey. I mentioned this with Jonah. I 100% maintain this with Morrissey, and that's the fact that it's amazing how Impact is booking him so well, booking him to just look like a monster, to look like a real threat, and someone who has been a monster and a threat to everyone in Impact in Moose. He's actually kind of dare I say, running scared almost from W. Morrissey. So, Impact has done a great job with W. Morrissey. Having said that, I know that he didn't really get too much of a chance in WWE before things fell apart. But what do you think of W. Morrissey, and what did you think of this match?
I've really liked the way that they've positioned him and booked him just as a monster. I think he brings an intensity into his every promo that he does, into the matches that he does, that you never would have guessed that he had it when he was in WWE. And they really, I think, botched him in WWE when they split him from Enzo. I didn't give him a chance to show what he can do, and here they've given him a chance, and he's risen to that opportunity. I thought the match was really, it was very much like a WWE world title match, right? Big hits, just big moves. And I thought it worked. I thought it worked well. I was surprised. I was surprised that I'm not surprised that Morrissey didn't win, but I thought it would have been even closer of a win for Moose, that he would have really struggled with the win.
Yeah.
Just to keep Morrissey looking strong and continue this on, potentially continue the feud.
Yeah, exactly. It really seemed like a decisive win. Like, this is it for W. Morrissey, at least for now, right? Like, so, yeah, that's the unfortunate part. So I agree with you there. So Moose did end up winning this match. And this leads us into the main event, which was Honor No More. Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, Kenny King, Vincent, and PCO versus Team Impact, which consisted of Rich Swann, Willie Mack, Steve Macklin, Chris Sabin, and Rhino.
Yeah, and the Willie Mack, obviously, before or earlier in the show, they'd set up that Eddie Edwards had been sneak attacked, presumably by Honor No More, but he had been laid out in the back, so Team Impact asked Willie Mack to take his place and substitute, which is why he was there. And I thought the match was a lot of fun. I mean, this was, for some people, it might have been their first exposure, really, to the Ring of Honor folks or that faction, and some of the players involved. I thought it was a real fun match, and I thought the swerve was done well at the end.
Yep, exactly.
And that was the big news of that match.
Exactly. So, we called it on this show. Eddie Edwards does turn on Team Impact, gives Honor No More the win. So the stipulation was that if Honor No More won, they can stick around in Impact. So there you go. Honor No More sticking around in Impact.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, I worry about that, because we saw it there was a lot of problems with Retribution and WWE, but once you if you're a dissident, or if you're, trying to tear down a company, and then you come in and now you're part of the company and you're on the contract, do you lose that cool factor? Do you lose the appeal? Do you lose what motivates you before you are contract?
Yeah, exactly. That's for sure something. It's like, now what, right? Like, what now? They've come in, they've done their invasion, they won their match, they're allowed to stay. What's next?
As employees of his?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
sorry?
No, it's just, I'm just saying, like,
sorry,
yeah,
you cut off for a second there. Can you still be that edgy as a faction, that you're doing something different?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, right? Like, now they kind of do have to follow the rules. Now they have to listen to management. It's going to get stale very fast if they try to continue doing this quote unquote invasion. So, we'll see. We'll see what goes on with them, but I do kind of have this fear there. All right, so that was the pay-per-view. Now, funny enough, they have another pay-per-view in just a few days, March 5th, Saturday, March 5th, the night before AEW Revolution, and so far there's only a few matches official. So the X Division title match is going to be Jake Something versus Trey Miguel. What are you thinking in your gut? Who's going to win?
I think Trey Miguel retains.
Yeah.
I can't really give you a reason why. I just think he does. Whether or not that means Jake moves down the card or up the card, I'm not sure, but I think Trey wins.
Yep. All right, the next match that was just recently signed was Jay White versus Alex Shelley, a returning Alex Shelley.
Yeah, this will be a good match. I think it doesn't make a lot of sense in terms of storyline. Again, I'm not sure if Alex Shelley's involved in the Bullet Club stuff or not, or if they have a history that I'm unaware of. It just seems like this is being booked as a spot match for the match itself, as opposed to being part of any storyline. It should be good. I mean, both Alex Shelley is a great performer, and he's shown that. Some people might have most recently seen him in he was in Impact for a bit, and in WWE before that as part of the one of the tournaments. So I think it'll be a good match. I'm not sure storyline wise if it made a lot of sense to do it, but it is what it is.
Yep. All right, and the third match that's official as of today is for the Impact Knockouts World Tag Team titles, and that's the Influence versus the Inspiration.
Yeah, this is the match that they've been trying to have for some time, that keeps getting deferred. So this is now the time. Presumably there'll be no problems, and I think Inspiration will retain. It's too soon for them to drop the titles, and I think they're better as champions, that the in-your-face, cocky, smug champions, than as challengers.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. All right, Bob, so those are the three matches that we have right now. But before I let you go, I kind of want to talk a little more about Impact. And specifically, one question that people ask us is about Josh Alexander. Can you give us an update on Josh Alexander? Where he's been. I know that there have been reports, but I think we want to hear it from Bob, the guy in the know, and the guy that reports all things Impact at SlamWrestling.net.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say this. I'm not going to reveal everything just because I've been asked to keep quiet on certain things. But as far as I know, Josh is back in Ontario. He's not working in the States. I'm not sure. I don't believe he has a working visa, although I think could be in discussions with some companies. I'm not saying that I know that. I'm saying I presume that he is in discussions with companies, and I think he should be. And I think any company would be lucky to have him, or it would be smart to hire him, because he's one of those guys who certainly in this past year has proven and demonstrated that he can be a star in North America on TV and internationally. So I hope, and plus, Josh, just knowing him as a person, I've known him for 15 years or so. He's a good guy that you want to have in your locker room. So I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he does end up somewhere and do what he does best in front of an audience that appreciates it.
Yep. And earlier today, Thursday, February 24th, you had an exclusive for SlamWrestling.net. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm happy to say that we broke the story. Cody Deaner, who's just going by Deaner now as part of the Violent by Design faction, he has renewed his contract with Impact. And again, for people in Ontario who know, Cody's been a veteran on the Canadian scene, has actually had a stint in TNA wrestling before this, then did a year there before, many years ago, and re-signed with them in 2018, and has now re-signed with them. Terms aren't specific, but he has renewed this contract, and he will be there, I guess, tonight and moving forward for some time. And it's good to see. Again, Cody's a veteran. He's another guy who's a really smart guy, strong in the locker room, and I believe now, as part of VBD, is really being given a chance to showcase what he can do outside of the comedy stuff that, the Deaner character was more known for.
Yep, agreed. I think he's a perfect fit for Impact, and it's good to see that has a place to call home, at least for the foreseeable future. So Bob, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for talking Impact. We might have to get you back soon to kind of, give us another state of the Impact or update of the state of the Impact. And we'll for sure be chatting soon. So we can find all of Bob's work at slamwrestling.net. Thank you so much, Bob.
I appreciate you having me on, and look forward to the next time.
All right, I want to thank Bob once again. Thank you, Bob, for appearing on the show. Like I say, it's always fun chatting with Bob, just because it's just someone who actually watches Impact and has watched Impact for years upon years, and so he brings up some great points about Impact in terms of them kind of being, their fans being loyal, and them kind of getting a bad rep, rightfully so in my opinion, but that's story for another day. But yeah, Matt, so man, it's just another week in, another week out.
Yeah, but I think it was a really good week for wrestling. I mean, Dynamite was indeed Dynamite. Yeah, we got lots coming down the pike, man. I'm excited. Next week, NBA wrap-up, NHL wrap-up, Noah wrap-up, New Japan wrap-up, Stardom wrap-up. It's the catch-up show.
Yeah, it's a catch-up show on the Catch-All Show featuring Matt and Boris. Until next week, thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Aye.